Have you ever stopped to think about what a wild animal can teach us about gratitude? In the heart of the Tanzanian savannah, a man named Mr. Makand dedicated his life to protecting the animals of the Serengeti Reserve. He faced scorching heat, freezing nights, and even his own fate to save those who couldn't speak for themselves. But what happened on the day of his farewell? Well, let's just say a lion, with eyes as deep as the sunset, did something no one could ever forget. Can you believe a wild animal's gesture could change the way we see the world? Get ready, because this story will move you, and there's more. What this lion did at Mr. McCann's funeral will give you chills. Let's start with the man who lived for nature. The sun rose over the Serengeti, painting the sky orange, while the sound of birds echoed like a natural orchestra. Mr. McCann, with his well-lived 70 years, was already up, his worn boots kicking. The red earth. He wasn't just a ranger. It was as if the savannah ran through his veins. For over 50 years, this soft-spoken man with kind eyes protected lions, elephants, and even the smallest antelopes with a commitment that seemed to defy time. Who hasn't dreamed of living for something bigger than themselves? And he did it every day, with a smile that said, "It's worth it." But what kept him so tied to that wild place? Makan started as a curious young man, fascinated by the distant roar of lions. The smell of dry grass filled his lungs as he patrolled, noting every detail of the wildlife. He didn't just monitor, he talked to the animals, or at least it seemed that way. "Hey, big guy, behaving yourself?" he'd say, chuckling, spotting an elephant swinging its trunk. His compassion led him to learn the secrets of the land, from Maasai elders, from tracking footprints to healing injured animals. If you love heartwarming stories, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any. But how did such an ordinary guy become a legend in the savannah? It wasn't just a job, it was a mission. McCann faced poachers with nothing but courage and an old radio. Once he risked his life to free a lion cub caught in a trap, his heart racing as he cut the ropes. That cub, which he named Kipepeo, butterfly in Swahili for its energy, grew strong but never forgot the man who saved him. The loyalty between them was like an invisible thread, woven by nature. Have you ever felt an animal look at you like it understood everything? McCann lived that, and even after retiring, he couldn't abandon the reserve. Why? The answer lay in his soul. Even with white hair and creaking joints, he returned to the reserve as a volunteer, guided by a call he couldn't explain. The rustle of leaves under his feet seemed to whisper, "You're part of this." He helped care for injured animals, taught young rangers, and told stories that made everyone laugh, like the time a baboon stole his hat. His life was proof that conservation isn't just about saving animals, but saving the best in us. Pause for a second and imagine dedicating 50 years to something like that. Isn't it inspiring? But what would he face next? And then the Serengeti's heat began to test even the strongest heart. McCann, with his battered straw hat, kept up his routine, but something was shifting on the horizon. The Serengeti sun was unforgiving, scorching the earth until the air seemed to shimmer. It was a day when the heat hitting 45 km made even zebras seek shade. But Mr. McCann, he was out there, walking with his nearly empty canteen, sweat streaming down his face like rivers. The dry crack of twigs under his boots echoed in the vastness. He wasn't one to complain, but have you ever felt the weight of a day that seems to challenge you just for existing? McCann faced it with a commitment that made anyone stop and think. But why didn't he slow down, even with age weighing on him? That day, he had a mission. A wounded rhinoceros, struck by a poacher's arrow, needed help. The metallic smell of blood mixed with the savannah's dust guided his steps. McCann knelt beside the animal, which snorted, its eyes wide with pain. "Easy, friend. I'll get you through this," he murmured, his voice so gentle it seemed to calm even the wind. He worked quickly, cleaning the wound with steady hands, but the heat was cruel, gripping his chest like a claw. Who hasn't wanted to give up but kept going for love? He kept going, but how much could his body take? Life in the reserve was never easy. McCand had faced storms that turned trails into rivers of mud and nights so cold that ice glistened on the bushes. He'd laugh, recounting how he once slept hugging his own coat, dreaming of hot coffee. But now, with the sun punishing him, each step felt like a test of sacrifice. He'd pause, take a deep breath, and carry on, because stopping wasn't who he was. Nature demanded everything from him, and he gave it all back. Close your eyes for a moment and feel that heat. Can you imagine the strength he needed? And yet, something bigger was coming. His younger colleagues admired him but worried. "2, Mr. McCand, take a break," they'd shout, but he'd just wave with that stubborn smile. He knew every animal saved was a victory against destruction. His compassion spared no effort, even when his heart beat slower and his breathing grew heavy. He finished treating the rhino, which stood trembling as if in thanks. McCand wiped his face, chuckling softly. "You owe me one, huh, big guy?" But then something no one expected happened. As he walked away, dizziness hit him. He stumbled, clutching his chest, and the world seemed to spin slower. A distant lion's roar echoed, as if the savannah itself sensed what was coming. His colleagues ran, shouting his name, but fate had other plans. The Serengeti sky was clear, but a shadow seemed to hover over the savannah. Mr. McCand, still dizzy, fell to his knees on the hot earth, his heart beating out of rhythm. The buzz of flies around the saved rhino mixed with the shouts of colleagues, rushing to him. "McCand, hang in there!" They surrounded him, desperate, as the old ranger clutched his chest, his face pale as the moon. Have you ever felt time stop, like the world held its breath? In that moment, nature seemed to hold its breath too. But what could save a man who gave everything? His colleagues acted fast, tearing his shirt, trying to revive him. The smell of dried dust rose as they pounded his chest, begging him to come back. A radio crackled, calling for help, but the reserve was vast and the hospital so far. McCand, between gasps, murmured something about Kipepeo, the lion he'd saved years before. His eyes, though weak, shone with a strange peace, as if he knew something no one else understood. Who hasn't wanted to believe the universe sends signs? But his heart was giving up. The news spread like wind through the reserve. Young rangers, Maasai elders, even the tour guides McCand had trained stopped, stunned. He wasn't just a colleague. He was the guy who made everyone laugh with stories of clumsy hyenas, the one who shared his bread with the hungry. His sacrifice wasn't just that moment. It was a lifetime dedicated to conservation. Picture for a second the emptiness left behind. Can you feel its weight? And as the sun set, painting the sky red, the truth hit. McCand wouldn't return. His colleagues carried his body gently, as if he could still feel their care. Tears fell, but no one spoke loudly. It was as if the savannah demanded silence. The rhino he'd saved, now standing, snorted in the distance as if it understood the loss. McCand's compassion had saved so many, but who would save him? It felt unfair, almost cruel, that such a good man would leave like this. And yet something greater was coming, something no one could foresee. As they planned the funeral, his colleagues vowed to honor McCand the way he'd want, in the reserve, with the earth he loved beneath his feet. But then, the unexpected happened. A deep roar echoed through the savannah, and golden eyes gleamed among the bushes. Twilight draped the Serengeti in a golden veil, and the air carried the fresh scent of grass dampened by the night breeze. In the heart of the reserve, a circle of people gathered for Mr. McCand's funeral, their soft voices chanting Maasai songs that echoed like ancient prayers. His body, wrapped in a simple cloth, rested on the earth he loved so much. Candles flickered, casting shadows that danced across grief-stricken faces. Have you ever felt a moment so solemn it seemed to touch your soul? Here, nature seemed to weep alongside them. But how do you honor a man who lived for it? Maasai elders led the ritual, scattering aromatic herbs that released a faint smell of earth and smoke. Each gesture was a tribute, a thank you for McCand's life and his loyalty to the savannah. Friends shared stories, the time he persuaded an elephant to leave a village with just patience, or how he taught kids to respect nature. He said every animal has a soul, a young ranger murmured, wiping his eyes. It was as if Makand were still there, laughing at his own tales. Who wouldn't want to be remembered like that? But something else was about to happen. The ceremony continued, and silence fell when an elder asked for a moment of reflection. "Close your eyes and feel his presence in the breeze," he said. Everyone obeyed, and the distant sound of crickets seemed to amplify the void Makand left. His life of sacrifice and compassion had united people and animals, and now they all said goodbye. Young rangers whom he'd trained like sons held each other's hands, vowing to carry his legacy. Nature, so present, seemed to approve. But then a deep sound cut through the air. What was that? A low roar, almost a lament, made everyone open their eyes. From the trees, a majestic silhouette emerged. A male lion, his mane swaying like a crown in the wind. It was Kipepeo, the cub Makand had saved 15 years ago, now a king of the savannah. He walked slowly, his eyes fixed on Makand's body as if he understood everything. The crowd held its breath, awestruck and afraid. Do you believe in bonds that transcend life? Because what happened next was beyond explanation. Kipepeo stopped before the body, lowered his head, and stood still, as if offering his own tribute. The silence was so deep you could hear every heart beating. No one moved. It was as if the entire savannah respected that moment. The Serengeti night was a blanket of stars, and the moon's soft glow lit the funeral circle where Mr. Makand rested. Kipepeo's roar still echoed in everyone's hearts, and now the lion stood there before the body, his mane trembling in the breeze. The sound of his heavy breathing cut through the silence, as if he carried the weight of gratitude too vast to express. Have you ever seen an animal act like it knew more than it should? Because in that moment, Kipepeo seemed to understand what no one dared say. But what would he do before his savior? Slowly, the lion lowered his head further, almost touching the cloth covering Makand. His golden eyes, reflecting the candles, seemed to tell a story from 15 years ago, when a frightened cub was saved by gentle hands. The smell of melting wax hung in the air, mixed with the tension of everyone watching, frozen in place. "It's like he's saying goodbye," a ranger whispered, tears streaming down. Makand's compassion had forged a bond not even death could break. Who could imagine a wild lion showing such respect? And there was more. Kipepeo then did something no one expected. He lay down beside the body like a loyal guardian. The earth beneath his paws seemed to pulse with Makand's memory, and the lion stayed there quiet for long minutes. The Maasai, who know nature's signs, murmured among themselves, saying it was a gift from the universe, proof that loyalty transcends species. Pause for a moment and picture this scene. A lion, king of the savannah, honoring a human with such tenderness. Can you feel your heart tighten? But why didn't he leave? Those present began to realize Kipepeo wasn't there by chance. Years before, Makand would visit him whenever he could, playing from afar, tossing sticks the lion chased like a kitten. That connection, forged in simple moments, now revealed itself in a grand gesture. Kipepeo's tribute was more than a farewell. It was a testament to the impact of a life dedicated to conservation. People started taking photos but soon put their phones away. That moment demanded respect, not flashes. And what would come after this powerful scene? When Kipepeo finally stood, he let out a deep roar that echoed through the savannah like a hymn. Then he turned and walked into the darkness, his silhouette fading among the trees. But his story with Makand wouldn't end there. Something even more incredible was yet to come, something that would show a lion's gratitude can last forever. Dawn in the Serengeti brought a different silence, as if the savannah were still absorbing the weight of Mr. Makand's funeral. A gentle breeze stirred the acacias, carrying the sweet scent of damp earth after a light rain. Where he'd been honored, a simple stone now stood, engraved with his name and the words, "Guardian of Life." The rangers, still emotional, gathered, there sharing Makand's stories with laughs that hid their longing. Have you ever felt an emptiness that somehow fills you with inspiration? Because that's exactly what his memory did. But something unexpected was about to happen. Days after the funeral, a young ranger noticed fresh tracks near the stone. They were lion tracks, large and unmistakable. The sound of grasshoppers singing at dusk seemed to amplify the mystery. It was Kipapeo. He returned night after night to lie beside the grave, as if guarding Makand even in death. The Maasai said the lion sensed his friend's soul in the earth, a sign of gratitude that crossed the veil of life. Who hasn't wanted to believe love leaves eternal marks? This lion seemed to prove it. But how long would he keep coming? Word of Kipapeo's behavior spread, drawing researchers and visitors to the reserve. They came with cameras but left with tears touched by a wild animal's loyalty. Makand's legacy, always tied to conservation, now inspired the world. His story became a lesson in local schools, teaching that caring for nature is caring for ourselves. Picture for a second the impact of that. A man and a lion showing that compassion creates bonds beyond life. Doesn't it warm your heart? And the story didn't stop there. Kipapeo kept visiting for months, braving torrential rains or freezing nights. Sometimes he'd just sit there, gazing at the horizon, as if talking to Makand. The rangers, now calling the grave the guardians, protected the spot, ensuring Makand's memory remained untouched. Nature seemed to approve, with birds perching on the stone as if paying their respects too. The lion and the man together taught that sacrifice for a greater purpose is never in vain. But what did this mean for the reserve's future? Over time, Kipapeo grew old, but he never stopped visiting. His presence became a symbol, a reminder that gratitude and love can unite humans and animals. The reserve created a fund in Makand's name, supporting new rangers and wildlife protection. His story lives on in the savannah, in a lion's paw prints, and the hearts of those who hear his tale. And now, what else might the savannah hold for us? Sometimes the greatest teachers have 4 legs and roar at the sky. The story of Mr. Makand and Kipapeo reminds us that compassion, sacrifice, and loyalty can forge bonds that death can't undo. Makand devoted over 50 years to conservation, facing scorching heat, constant dangers, and even his own heart to protect the Serengeti's wildlife. And Kipapeo, with his silent gratitude, showed that nature never forgets those who love it. Have you ever thought about the impact a single person or animal can have? This story proves that a legacy of love and care lives forever in the earth, in hearts, and even in a lion's paw prints. As the sun sets in the Serengeti, the stone marking Makand's grave stands, surrounded by wildflowers and visited by those he inspired. Kipapeo, with his graying mane, still roams the savannah, a living symbol that kindness echoes. The reserve, now stronger, carries Makand's name as a beacon for future generations. Who knows how many rangers, children, or even lions will be touched by this story? It teaches us that caring for nature is caring for our own soul. And you? Have you ever had an animal that changed your life? Share it in the comments, we'd love to hear. If this story warmed your heart, the next video YouTube suggests will move you even more. Don't miss it. Give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss any of these chronicles showing how animals teach us to be more human. The savannah has so much more to tell us. Until next time.